anyone, a stranger, a counselor, a neighbor, a family member. It could be your spouse. It could be your child. Today I'm here to talk to you about addiction. Addiction is a fast-growing issue in today's society, and it's important to know any warning signs before it's too late. Addiction almost always destroys anything in its path. When a person is addicted to something or doing something, they cannot control how they use it or exercise it and become dependent on it to cope with daily life. What seemed to be just a little habit may eventually turn into an addiction for some people. You can learn more on addiction at medicalnews.com today, but one thing I found interesting there was the difference between a habit and an addiction. In addiction, there is a mental and physical component. The person is unable to control the aspects of the addiction without help because of the mental or physical conditions involved. A habit is done by choice. The person with the habit can choose to stop and sometimes will stop successfully if they want to. The mental and physical component is not an issue as it is with addiction. Basically, if it's a habit, you have a choice and you're in control. If it's an addiction, you're not in control of your choices. Reports from Harvard Health publications indicate the awareness of addiction in today's society. At one time, researchers believed people who developed addictions were sometimes morally flawed or lacking in willpower. Overcoming addiction, they thought, would mean in punishment or encouraging them to somehow muster up the willpower to just stop the habit. Today, scientific theories have changed since then. Today, we recognize addiction as a chronic disease that changes with brain structure and function. Just like cardiovascular disease damages the heart and diabetes impairs the pancreas, addiction hijacks the brain. This happens as the brain goes through a series of changes, beginning with recognizing pleasure and ending with a drive towards compulsive behavior. Repeated exposure to an addictive behavior causes nerve cells in the brain to communicate in a way that enhances liking something with wanting it, and then in return driving us to go after it. This process motivates us to take action, to seek out the source of pleasure. As a result, people who develop an addiction typically find that in time, the desired behavior no longer gives them as much pleasure. The addict's tolerance level continues to grow. Now we have another problem. The pleasure associated subsides, and yet the memory of the desired effect and need to recreate it persists. The brain stores information about our surroundings associated with the desired behavior so that it can always be located. These memories help create intense cravings whenever this person encounters these kinds of triggers. Cravings contribute not only to addiction, but to relapse after a hard-won society. An example, a person addicted to gambling may be in danger when he sees his best friend win $100 off a $5 scratch-off. Or Jill down the street may begin to overeat again after she tastes one little piece of pie at Thanksgiving dinner. This conditional learning helps explain why people who develop an addiction risk relapse even after years of sobriety. So there's endless information about addiction, and some of it is still unknown. But the fact here today is that we do not choose to become addicts. The good news is that you, your spouse, your child, your neighbor, your coworker, and even the man down the street who's been strung out all his life can get help today. The addict suffers from a disease that expresses itself in ways that make detection, diagnosis, and treatment very difficult. They dream of finding a magic potion that will solve the ultimate problem, himself. An addict's reaction is what makes it an addict, just like how we react to our environment. According to studies at Harvard, scientific advances have shaped our understanding of this common and complex disease. There are a number of effective treatments for addiction, including self-help strategies, psychotherapy, medications, and rehabilitation programs, all of these which are available to all addicts.